The moment my boot crunched on the frost-covered leaves of the Shenandoah Trail, I felt the forest shift, like it knew I didn't belong. It was 11:47 p.m. on October 17, 2024, and I'd been walking the path behind my rented cabin in Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains for over an hour, trying to outrun a week that had broken me, fired from my job at the hardware store, dumped by my girlfriend of 3 years, and stuck in a spiral that left me hollow. The air was sharp, cutting at my knuckles, the moon a faint sliver barely piercing the canopy of gnarled oaks and pines. My flashlight, a cheap plastic thing I'd grabbed at a gas station, cast a weak beam that flickered over the dirt path. I'd walked this trail dozens of times since moving here a month ago, knew every bend, every stump, every dip in the earth. But tonight, the forest felt alive in a way it never had before, like it was watching, waiting. I'd been out maybe an hour and a half, my breath fogging in the cold, when I heard it. A snap, sharp and heavy, like a branch breaking under something big. Not a twig, not the wind. Something with weight. I stopped dead, heart kicking up, and swung the flashlight around. The beam caught nothing but trees, their shadows twisting like claws on the ground. "Hello?" I called, my voice thin, swallowed by the dark. No answer, just the faint drone of crickets and an owl hooting somewhere far off. I told myself it was a deer, maybe a bear. Shenandoah had wildlife, coyotes, foxes, nothing unusual. But my stomach nodded, and I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes boring into me from somewhere just out of sight. I kept moving, faster now, the trail looping back toward the cabin. The air grew thicker, heavier, like it was pressing down on my shoulders. Another snap, closer this time, off to my left. I froze again, flashlight shaking in my grip. The beam caught something, 2 glints, low to the ground, like wet glass reflecting light. They hovered for a second, unblinking, then vanished when I blinked. My throat tightened, mouth dry as sand. "Just an animal," I muttered, but the words felt like a lie. I started walking again, my boots crunching louder than before, the sound echoing in a way that made the forest feel too quiet, too still. The noises didn't stop. Cracks, rustles, always just beyond the flashlight's reach. They weren't steady like an animal's gait, uneven, deliberate, like something was pacing me, keeping its distance but never letting me out of its sight. My heart was pounding now, my breath coming in short, ragged bursts. I checked my phone, 12:19 a.m., no signal, battery at 8%. I shoved it back in my pocket and broke into a jog, the trail's familiar curves now a maze of shadows that seemed to twist and stretch. The air smelled wrong, beyond the usual pine and damp earth, there was something sour, like rotting meat left out too long. I gagged, pulling my jacket over my nose, and that's when I heard it, a low, wet rasp, like air dragged through a throat clogged with mucus. It came from behind me, close enough to make the hairs on my neck stand up. I spun around, flashlight beam swinging wild. Nothing. Just the empty trail, disappearing into the dark. But the rasp didn't stop. It moved, circling me, now to my right, now behind again, never in the same place twice. My chest was tight, my legs itching to run. I didn't call out again, I knew better. The flashlight flickered, and I cursed, smacking it against my palm. The beam steadied, but the forest felt tighter, the trees leaning in closer than they should have been. I knew this path, 3 miles, a steady loop back to the cabin, but it felt longer now, like the trail was stretching itself out to keep me trapped. I ran, boots pounding the dirt, branches snagging at my sleeves. The rasp followed, louder, faster, like it was keeping up without effort. My mind screamed deer, bear, coyote, but nothing in these woods made a sound like that. The trail curved sharply, and I stumbled, catching myself on a tree. The bark was slick, almost oily, and when I pulled my hand back, it smelled like that sour rot in the air. I wiped it on my jeans, heart hammering, and swung the flashlight around. The beam caught something, a shape, tall and thin, swaying just beyond the light's edge, like it was caught in a breeze that didn't exist. It was too tall to be human, too still to be an animal. I blinked, and it was gone, but my skin crawled, every nerve screaming to move. I bolted, chest burning, legs heavy. The cabin was close, I had to be close. The trail opened up, and there it was, the faint outline of the roof against the sky. Relief hit me, sharp and fleeting. The rasp was right behind me now, so close I could feel the air shift, like something was breathing down my neck. I fumbled for my keys, flashlight tucked under my arm, beam bouncing uselessly. The door was 10 feet away, then 5, and I slammed into it, hands shaking as I jammed the key into the lock. It stuck for a second, and I swore, twisting harder. The lock clicked, and I stumbled inside, throwing the deadbolt behind me. I backed away from the door, flashlight still on, pointed at the wood. My breath was loud, ragged, but the rasp was gone. Silence, just the hum of the cabin's old fridge. I stood there, heart pounding, waiting for something to crash through. Nothing did. I checked the windows, locked, curtains drawn. The clock on the wall read 12:52 a.m. I sank onto the couch, flashlight still in hand, telling myself it was over. I was safe. The forest was outside, and I was in here. Then I heard it, a faint scratch, slow and deliberate, coming from the back door. Not claws, not branches. Fingernails, dragging across wood. I froze, breath caught in my throat. The scratch stopped, and for a moment, I thought it was done. Then came the voice. Not human, not animal, but something caught between. It wasn't words, just a low, guttural hum, like it was trying to mimic speech but didn't know how. It came from the other side of the door, patient, unhurried, like it had all the time in the world. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My flashlight was dimming, the beam barely reaching the wall now. The hum kept going, steady, relentless, sometimes rising, sometimes falling, but never stopping. I gripped the flashlight tighter, my knuckles white, and stared at the door. The cabin felt smaller, the walls closing in, like the forest was pressing against the windows, trying to get inside. My phone was dead, no way to call for help. I thought about the car, but it was parked 50 yards down the gravel drive, and I'd have to go outside to get to it. The hum changed, growing sharper, almost like a chuckle, low and wet. My stomach turned. I crept to the window by the front door, peeling back the curtain just enough to see the porch. The flashlight beam was too weak to show much, but the porch was empty, the trail beyond it swallowed by dark. I let the curtain fall and backed away, checking the locks again, even though I knew they were secure. The hum didn't stop. It felt closer now, like it was right against the door, the thing's mouth pressed to the wood. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen, a cheap hunting blade I'd bought for camping, and sat back on the couch, eyes fixed on the door. The clock ticked past 2 a.m., then 3 o'clock. My flashlight died, leaving me in the dim glow of a single lamp. The hum never got louder, never stopped, just kept going, like it was waiting for me to crack, to open the door and see what was out there. I didn't. I couldn't. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it, maybe a prank, maybe some local messing with me. But no one lived within miles, and no one could make that sound, not with a human throat. I thought back to the stories I'd heard when I rented the cabin. The old guy at the general store, with his tobacco-stained teeth, had warned me about the woods. "Don't go out too late," he'd said, half smirking. "Folks say there's things out there, older than the trees." I'd laughed it off, figured he was just trying to spook a city guy. Now, sitting in the dark, that hum drilling into my skull, I wasn't laughing. I remembered other things too, how the locals never hiked this trail past dusk, how the ranger station had a map with certain areas marked, restricted, no explanation given. I'd thought it was for safety, maybe unstable ground. Now I wasn't so sure. The hum shifted again, almost like it was forming words, but not quite. It was too low, too garbled, like a voice underwater. I clutched the knife tighter, my palm sweaty, and tried to focus on the clock, willing the hours to pass. The lamp flickered, just once, and my heart stopped. I told myself it was old wiring, but the hum seemed to pulse with the flicker, like it was reacting. I didn't sleep, didn't move, just sat there, listening, as the thing outside kept up its endless, awful song. Around 4 a.m., I heard a new sound, a faint thud, like something heavy settling against the door. Not a knock, not a push, just weight, like it was leaning there, waiting. My mouth went dry, and I gripped the knife so hard my hand ached. The hum didn't stop, but it felt closer, like it was seeping through the wood, filling the room. I wanted to scream, to tell it to go away, but my voice was gone, stuck in my throat. The cabin was freezing now, colder than it should have been, even for October. My breath fogged in front of me, and I swore I saw it move, curling like smoke, as if something else was breathing in here with me. I don't know how I made it through the night. The hum never stopped, but it faded slightly as the sky lightened, the first hints of dawn creeping through the curtains. By 7:14 a.m., it was gone. The forest was quiet, birds chirping like it was just another morning. I didn't feel relieved. I felt watched. I checked the back door, knife in hand, and found scratch marks, deep, jagged, running from top to bottom, like something had been clawing at it all night. The wood was splintered in places, but the door had held. I checked the porch, the trail, the ground around the cabin. No footprints, no tracks, just that lingering sour smell, faint but unmistakable. I packed my bag, threw it in the car, and drove to Richmond, checking into a motel with streetlights and noise and people. I didn't sleep for 2 days, kept hearing that hum in my head, faint but persistent, like it had burrowed into me. I told myself it was trauma, my brain replaying the fear. But a week later, I found scratches on my car door, same as the cabin, deep, jagged, deliberate. I sold the car, moved to an apartment in the city, and swore off the woods for good. But the hum follows me. At night, when it's too quiet, I hear it, low, guttural, patient. I keep the lights on, check the locks, and never open the curtains after dark. I don't know what it was, out there in the Shenandoah, but I know it's not done with me. It's waiting, and someday, it'll find me again.